How can you tell if your degree of anxiety or fear about a given situation is reasonable or kind of over the top? That's what my show is about today. HeathMD here, psychoanalyst for Freudalicious Mind. Get to know how your mind works and live authentically. And let's talk about fear because there's a lot of it going around. This has been a really hard week. I live in the United States, excuse me, and just it seems like just this week we've begun to realize how profound this COVID-19 coronavirus epidemic is. And it's not the end of the world. This isn't a meteor coming and killing everyone or something like that. And so we have to put it in perspective. And so to do that, I've heard a lot of people talk about don't panic. And other people that it bothers them. It starts bothering you when people are saying, "Oh, don't panic." What does it mean to panic? What are they saying not to do? So let's talk about that because I think what people are meaning by don't panic is not get lost in the sort of the bigger fears that like culture is going to fall apart or something like that. If we see the what information we do have from China, or certainly the information we have from Italy, where things are really kind of shut down, people are coping with that. It's not it's not that culture has fallen apart in these places. It's that people are sticking together, working together, trying to make the best of a really difficult situation, and trying not to overload the medical system. And to do that, we have to keep ourselves from getting this illness. And so there's things that you can do. So so the distinction, it seems to me, is that if it feels like a horror movie, it's probably an overreaction. It's not an absolute overreaction because there was a time that you had fears like that. And that's why this me as psychoanalyst is talking about this because whenever a powerful thing happens, it resonates with past experiences and it resonates with stuff deep under the surface or unconscious. I've talked about this before, but there's kind of a fantasy, an imaginary kind of scenario under the surface with us all the time. I mean, it's where things like love come from, and passion and creativity and motivation. All these things come from beneath the surface. These aren't like love, for instance. You can't decide who to love. You fall in love, or you automatically kind of love certain people, like if you grow up around them. Uh, those we you can't just figure out who to have that for. You can't figure out something that you want to create. Artists know this. Actually, all of us have some experience of creativity, and you have to know that it kind of catches you by surprise. There's an aha moment, a eureka moment where it kind of catches you by surprise. There's this stuff under the surface, and that stuff really powerfully drives our feelings, our emotions, our behaviors even, and that's where the horror movie degree of panic is coming from, because there's reason to be concerned, there's reason to be um, worried, but there's not any reason to be horrified and prepare for the end of times, because reality is, I mean, if you look at there's some ways to be reassured about this. If you look back at past epidemics, at least in the last 100 years, they were bad. A lot of people died, and a lot of people were sick, but it wasn't the end of the world. Neither is some other big catastrophes have happened, and we've been able to recover. One of the ways that we recover is our sense of community, and I think that's where something that people forget, because if you look, if you look, for instance, at Puerto Rico after the Hurricane Maria, hit. They were devastated. I have a friend down there that I didn't talk with for 2 or 3 weeks. I actually didn't know if she was alive, if she had made it, because there were no transmissions from down there. After 2 or 3 weeks, she finally got a line out that she could text me and say she was okay. But she was even trapped in her building for I don't know how long, a few days or something, before they could move the tree that was in the way of the door. It was just and thousands of stories like that. But the way they got through it, I follow her on Facebook, and I could see the communications. And locally there, they would talk with each other about, hey, who has some blankets, or who has some tarps that we can use for this or this, and that was a profound sudden disaster that really caught them by surprise, and devastated the infrastructure as well. They made it through it. Margaret Mead is anthropologist, and someone asked her, when does she say that civilization began? Because what is civilization? And she says that, and you would think it was with technology. Oh, when we began to use tools to fashion things, or when we first maybe we discovered the wheel, invented the wheel, or some landmark. From technology, and she said, no, it's nothing like that. Looking back at past cultures and past, peoples that lived thousands of years ago, she says that you know that there was civilization when there was evidence of bones that had healed, femurs in particular, because the long leg bone is kind of necessary to move around. And in every other species, if you break your femur, you're pretty much a goner. You're not going to make it in the animal world. The She says, Margaret Mead says, that civilization began when people began to see that there was help for the broken leg, and they would carry the hurt person to safety. There was enough of an infrastructure there that they could take care of one another. They could take care of the person who had the broken leg for the 6 weeks that it takes for that to mend. And that's the beginning of civilization. That's not going to fall apart. This isn't a Mad Max movie or something like that. This is all of us in this together. If we look at the experience of the Italians, for instance, where they may be isolated, but they sing to each other in the streets, and perform music for one another, and they stay connected in whatever way they can. And That's very, very different than a horror movie. And so if we can remember that, the problem is that these two levels, right? The level of concern and we need to stick together versus the level of the imagination and what could happen. And when we're isolated and faced with this danger, which is faceless. You can't see a virus. We only through science know what a virus even is, but we know that we get really sick and can even die from this virus. That we know, and so we have to have sort of faith that there is even such a thing as a virus, right? And we know that medications can work. There's evidence that viruses exist, and that's what this is a virus that's being passed from person to person. Uh, but it doesn't have a face. It's invisible. And so it's very easy for very primitive, very unconscious fears. Just like when you were 5 years old and maybe you were afraid of the dark, or maybe you were afraid of getting hurt and needed band-aids all the time, or maybe you were afraid of like monsters under the bed. If you watch Monsters Inc. by Disney, and it's a play on this idea of that everybody has these childhood fears, and it's a normal thing during developmental phases to be afraid of something beyond yourself, something that nameless, faceless kind of threat from the outside. For the 5-year-old, it really has to do with their trying to deal with their own feelings. They're growing, they're trying to understand what relationships are about, why they get left out from certain relationships. There's all kinds of things that happen to the 4 to 6-year-old child that they're trying to understand, and sometimes that generates feelings and fears within them that get kind of externalized as, oh, it must be a monster under the bed, because they can't fathom the depth of their own feelings. Well, that kind of still lives in us today, and you re-experience it in if you go basically to a haunted house, or if those are fearful for you, or if you watch a horror movie, and if you're scared by those, uh, where does that fear come from? It's just a movie. It's actors. You even know you've probably seen the makeup that they put on, before the show. But oh, we're into it, and we really think that it's coming true, or Stephen King's movies and books. And because it stirs up this really old stuff. I'll put a link on the screen here. It's probably up here. To again, I've brought this up before, but why are we drawn to things that are scary? I mean, in ways we're even drawn to these things because it creates such a large space in ourselves. There's such a big part of us that resonates with this fear of the nameless, faceless threat. And that's what gets stirred up in us when we start thinking that civilization will go away, or we're all going to die, or something like that. And fact is, we really have to be careful. Need to make changes in our society, maybe even. This social distancing thing will be with us for a while. We need to really stick with protecting one another and protecting ourselves. Uh, but uh, but we're all not going to die. Uh, eh, some percentage of us. Uh, are going to die of this illness. But the risk of you having this illness and dying from it is actually low. And same with me. And so the key is decreasing our risk because you could die of this illness. But even if you catch it, your risk of dying from it is low. It's high enough to be really concerned, and it's high enough that it has a great threat to our culture, and so it's going to hurt our economy. Some people are going to die, and so these are the reasons to be concerned. But it's not a Mad Max movie. It's really not, you know, um, what we as 5-year-olds remember fearing. It's not bigger than life, and that's the thing to pay attention to. If you start thinking that this feels like a horror movie, you got to ask yourself, A, ask yourself, is it really that much of a threat? And if you're not sure, get information. There's information. Don't touch your face, by the way. Don't touch your face and wash your hands a lot. But there's information on the web. A lot of the reputable universities have information about the history of. Don't watch out how much news you watch because the news is made less for information and more for entertainment because they make the news so that you'll watch it and you'll come back and it's made kind of to be addictive. Set yourself a ration of maybe half an hour 3 times a day, something like that. But if you're watching the news 12 hours a day, or if you have it even in the background, it, don't let yourself do that. Ration it and do some other things because this can be a powerfully creative time. I mean, if you're well and if you aren't having to work, then you have extra time to create something or find something different to do. Rediscover yourself. Listen to your body. Do mindfulness or yoga or some kind of exercise you can do inside, stretching. Stay in touch with your body because that's where your emotions are. That's where your real responses to things, both past and present. But you can sort that out and make the best of this time. Uh, uh, and be careful. So where was I headed with all this information? So if you can, universities, I think some of the more reputable TV channels have history programs that you can see, not embellished and not alarmist numbers, but real numbers about what happened during the flu epidemic in the 1950s? What kinds of things got in our way from protecting ourselves in the 1918 so-called Spanish flu epidemic? The main thing with the Spanish flu epidemic was the lack of information. Governments were clamping down because of the World War at the time. Governments were clamping down on information, and so people were unaware that there was this contagion. We don't have that problem, at least currently. There's been mixed messages from maybe certain media and certain people in government that haven't given us a clear story. I think we have a lot more of the story now that there's a really dangerous illness and we have to take precautions. But look back at stories about the history of how we humans dealt with illnesses in the last 100 years. Don't go back further than that because this is a different culture now. Uh, and or how we dealt with economic crises. Our at least here in the United States, our economy is strong, I believe that. This will pass. There will be treatments and vaccines that are developed over time that we can deal with this differently. So, so hang on to yourself and take care of yourself. Don't get lost in the what people call panic because it's a memory of fears long past. It's not. This isn't a horror movie. This is a real thing that we can deal with, and with information and with each other, we can get through this. Thank you for tuning in. Listen to your inner voice. I'll see you guys next week. I'm here Thursdays, noon Central Time here in the United States. Thanks for tuning in.